Jaguar 48, set hut, hike. Football, America's favorite sport by a staggering 26%, according to the Pew Research Center, is dominating TV channels across millions of screens. Although this school boasts an undefeated record of 0 wins and 0 losses, students have found other ways to stay involved with this sport. For example, some turn to other high schools to play football, such as Forest Hill High School. Others use fantasy football leagues created with friends and peers to keep up with the National Football League. Today's guest, fantasy football guru and photo staffer Brian Fowler, can't wait to tell us more. This is Muse Talks Football Fantasies. How are you, Brian?
Hey, what's up, Mabruk? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not doing too well this week for fantasy, bro.
Bro, what's happening?
Not looking too well.
So how about we start off with the basics? What is fantasy football, Brian?
So fantasy is it's an online game where you just act as the coach of your virtual football team. You make your dream team. You want to get as many good players as you can before all the players get chosen out. And so you draft your individual players with your friends, and your team's performance is based on their real-life statistics of those actual players while they play.
And how does the draft work?
So the draft works. You have either you can go on a phone call, or it's easier if you're just there with your friends in person. And there's a timer on your phone, and you press ready to draft. And when you press that, all your friends are ready to draft their players, and it goes in a snake draft, which means, let's say there's me, you, and another player. It would go me, you, that other player, then that other player would get that next pick. So they get 2 picks in a row, and it would go back up.
So it's kind of like back and forth, so it ensures fairness and whatnot.
Exactly. So it's a snake draft, and you just pick each player that you want and their position. You have to fill up all the positions in your lineup, and that's how the draft works.
Wow, that's really cool. It's really similar to like real life drafting and like real life sports. And
yeah, it is.
Which is really cool. Which is a really interesting aspect because it really shows that connection to the game.
Yeah.
And so speaking of that connection to the game, how does fantasy football relate to the game of football itself?
So it's just like a parallel to the game. You watch the football game on the screen, and you have it on your phone, the fantasy app. And literally every single play that your player makes will determine whether your points go up or down. If they do a good play, then your points will go up. But if they're not doing too well, then it's not looking good for your team. And so you don't directly play football. You have to make sure you're watching and paying attention to the games and the players, making sure that one team might be better at defending this team than another one. So those players are all decided on your opponent. So that's what you got to be very in tuned with the game if you want to win. Some friend groups, they play for money, so you can have fun, or you just do a punishment. So
yeah, and we'll get into that later, but I was just more on that like friends and like making relationships thing. What kind of relationships do you develop while playing fantasy with your friends?
Well, it makes watching the games a lot more exciting, especially if you're rooting for your specific player to perform better than the other teams. Also, it's more fun if you're watching with your group of friends that are in your league, because you get to down on their players or like get hype and like taunt them too. Really also on fantasy, if your player does score or do a good play, there is an option for you to taunt, which is kind of funny because, I mean, there's no fun in game if there's no taunting in it.
Of course, like you can't have like games with your friends if you're not taunting them.
Exactly.
And so what are the strategies that you may use or some other players may use while playing fantasy football?
I mean, there's not really any strategies while playing. You just got to keep up with your players' statistics, make sure that they're doing good and that they stay on track. A lot of people don't pay attention deeply in depth with it, which isn't a problem, but if you really want to win and make sure you come out with a good team, you do have to check into those statistics, making sure that you're solid, you know?
Yeah, and how does like fantasy football like affect your weekend routine, since, it's such a big part of...
Okay, so I do a couple different fantasy teams. So I do fantasy baseball, I do fantasy football.
You're like the go
yeah,
at this.
so I actually recently just got into fantasy football. I used to just do fantasy baseball, but recently I just got into fantasy football, and I mean, now that football season and college season is now up, like, you'll see me Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, maybe even Monday Night Football. I'll be just watching games, or at least the teams that my players are on. So
what have you learned about football that you didn't learn before by doing fantasy?
I've just learned more about the players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of players that I had no idea about because I'm not really a football geek. I'm more of just a baseball. I know a lot more about baseball, but my buddies just got me into fantasy and football. And I know, like, Patrick Mahomes, like, he's good, I guess. I don't really know. But, I mean, he's pretty famous, so you'd think he's good. But, like, knowing a lot more about the players as well, because I had no idea about this guy named Puka Nacua, right?
Tell me about Puka Nacua,
and
Brian.
So Puka Nacua, my buddy Tim, he helped me actually set up my fantasy team because he's in my league, and we made a little side bet that if he helped me out, then I'll help him out as well. I mean, to the best of my ability. I mean, I'm not really that good, but Puka Nacua, I had no idea about this guy, and he told me to pick him, and now he's position ranked number 1, averaging 27.4 points a game, which is, like, pretty insane. My first week having him, he scored 23 points. Second week, 27. Third week, 22. And last week, he came out on top with a 36-point lead, and he actually clutched up for my team, which is pretty good. And there's like many other people, and I had no idea about this guy named Justice Hill. Most people know about a guy named Derrick Henry, right? Derrick Henry, he was amazing his first game. Amazing first game. He put up 29 points. After that, 3 weeks later, he's been flunking. And it's heartbreaking because you know this guy. He's pretty famous. People know his name, Derrick Henry. He's a running back. Everybody knows him. And now there's this backup QB named Justice Hill. Not many people know him. And he's scored 28 points last game, which is pretty crazy. So
It really goes to show how, like, variable fantasy football can be, like how varying the results can be, and how, honestly, luck is a big part of the game, right?
Luck is very big part because, I mean, you don't know how good a player will play against this team. They might have a great game or they might have an absolutely bad game.
Yeah.
So it's definitely about luck. Some of it's about skill. I mean, you can also make trades on fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tell me about trades more.
So you can trade with your friends and stuff. Like the strategy about trading is that you can trade a player who's, like, underperforming on your team for, like, one who's performing well, or trade 2 good players for one, like, really good player to negotiate. Also, a lot of the kids, like, in your, like, not your team, but in your league, yeah, in your league, they might think that they know a lot about the players, even though they really don't, and then they'll be like, hey, like, you can get this really bad player for Puka Nacua, like, come on, buddy. You know better than that.
Puka Nacua is our GOAT.
Yes, is our GOAT. But yeah, so also drafting for value. You were talking about some strategies. Drafting for value is also a really good strategy, which you just pick the players who are very likely to perform better than their current draft position suggests. And it's just about finding those hidden gems, those hidden players, and avoiding the overvalued players that people will most likely go for. And then those people who are hidden and are
sleeper picks.
Yeah, sleeper picks, dude. That's the exact word. They're sleeper picks. Literally, they're sleeper picks. You just took it right out of my mouth. But yeah, no, they're actually sleeper picks because Justice Hill, no idea about him. Just like I said before, he's coming out on top with 28 points against Derrick Henry, and he was my starter. So, I mean, it's those sleeper picks that you want to go for, and then eventually you can make trades for better players during the season. Also, there's matchup-based decisions, which is a strategy that involves, like, looking at players' weekly matchup. So you can see your opponent's team, and so last week, my opponent, I had Daniel Jones as my QB. My opponent, he had Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, Mahomes outperformed Daniel Jones with an astonishing 17-point lead, but unfortunately, it does tell you who is more likely to score more points and their average points per game for that. But also, it's not accurate because there's things that could happen during the game.
There's injuries.
Yeah.
There's defense.
Yes.
Stepping up. Yeah, like if a player's playing against the Dolphins, you probably want them to be on your team because
Exactly.
Dolphins defense isn't that good. But
There you go.
obviously that may not work out sometimes because there's always variables in sports. Sports
Yeah.
is never something that just stays the same. It's always changing. It's always evolving, which is kind of the beauty of sports in general.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And to kind of wrap us up, like what are some funny stories that you have about fantasy football or just fantasy sports in general?
So for a couple funny stories I have are, well, I haven't been involved in any funny stories, but I've heard of some that my friends have done. So obviously, if you lose your league, most leagues have punishments for the loser, and I've seen online like dog crates, like they'll put you in a dog crate and your friends will get one item to put on you, or like you have to spend 24 hours in an IHOP and each pancake or each item you eat is an hour deducted, which I think that's what our league's punishment is.
How much pancakes are you eating, Brian?
Oh, I'm not going to be eating any pancakes, Mabruk. I'm going to be winning this, buddy. But yeah, so those are some funny punishments that I've seen online.
Yeah.
Or some like embarrassing TikToks I'm sure you've seen online, which is kind of funny. So
Yeah, I mean, what's a competition without a punishment for the loser?
Dare,
Exactly.
yes.
I think that really helps bring the fun into it. And is there anything else you'd like to share about fantasy football? Anything like
I'd
that?
say just have fun doing it. The main point of fantasy is just to have fun with your friends. Don't let like the competition get in the way of you guys' friendship. I mean, yeah, there'll be some tension here and there, but like, it's just a game, guys.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
just in general, everything's just a game.
Yeah.
So don't overthink it either, because don't stress too much on getting like the perfect positions and players for your league. And I'd say if you're really into it, I mean, you don't really have to be really into it, but do some research on like who the best players are, or the people in your league. Even look at their players and how good they're performing, just so you can see, or maybe even ask if they're down to trade with any of your guys' players. So.
All right, Brian. I think that'll be a wrap. Hopefully, we don't see you in IHOP in a few months.
Hopefully not, Brooke.
Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of Muse Talks.
Peace.